hear about other people's behavior, it's really easy to say, well, they're just greedy, they're unethical, they're evil. And we shake our heads and we say, I would never do that. Why would these good people cheat? And I've reached a conclusion, and it is that their cheating is often a surprisingly logical response to confusing, weak signals. When we persist in thinking we can create a system, we're then relying on signals. And this current cohort, Gen Z or Gen Z, those 17 to 24-year-olds, they're really showing some very interesting traits because they're very quick to point out hypocrisy in others, or as they like to say, we will call you out on your BS, but they're not always demonstrating an ethical thought process or ethical behavior because a recent study showed that by their own admission, Gen Z employees were twice as likely as their boomer counterparts to bend the rules or engage in workplace misconduct. It's rather strange, isn't it? We can create more rules, impose bigger penalties, bigger fines, we can publicly shame, but a more lasting solution is in determining our own role. What can I do? So long as ethics is a sidebar, a box to be ticked, nothing will change. As long as we believe that only bad people do bad things, that we have no control, nothing will change because we can't rely on instinct and we can't rely on good intentions. We need a framework and we need a common language. We need to keep it simple. The primary purpose of all business is for the benefit of the shareholders, the owners. This is a legal and moral obligation. This truth, by its very nature, will create ethical conflicts. Identify a situation rather than a problem. So you can see how critical thinking really helps. Spending time on the problem and not so much on the solution. Here are the critical thinking standards. Now, I have to tell you my definition of an ethical issue. It's where two or more conflicting courses of action are available, and it's impossible to do them all. It is all about decision making. Now, when we gather facts, they should be clear, accurate, relevant, complete, and gathered without bias. Okay, more critical thinking. If we got the problem wrong, we will not gather useful facts. And ideally, as we gather facts, we should be revising the problem if necessary, as many times as needed. It's not often done, though. When we gather information, we need to be careful to differentiate between the facts and assumptions. We, the decision maker, we start with a poorly considered problem. We move quickly to a decision because the world rewards decisive, quick thinkers. We may have a brainstorming session or a think tank, and we know that there is no such thing as a bad idea. And ideas are discarded not because they're bad, but because they're wrong. I want to just tell you this from an ethics perspective. There are only three ways for something to be wrong. Now, I wish I could say that these were original thought, but this is the work of Rushworth Kidder, noted author, ethicist. And when I talk about this, and when I have more time, I often paraphrase it, talk about short term versus long term, and also talk about the known and the unknown, because people are what's happening right now in the short term is much more obvious and predictable, or known. But when you talk about long term consequences, you get into all sorts of speculation. The statistics might help. Historical information seems so reliable. Numbers seem so impartial and precise, but numbers can and do lie, or at least seriously mislead you. And of course, they're not the only things to consider.